Thank you nevertheless for your call. Now, you never know who is listening to you when you're broadcasting on LBC. Very pleased to say that it turns out that Cormac Smith, who was former communications advisor for the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, is in fact listening. Cormac, hello, welcome.
Sangeeta, hello. It's lovely to join you for the first time. Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome. What do you make of this question? The question is very straightforward. We are apparently living in a post-peace, pre-war era, according to Grant Shapps and every other defence analyst I speak to. That would, we would think, demand an increase in spend on the armed forces. But if we do that, how do we justify it at a time that other public services are on their knees?
Sangeeta, if you'll allow me a soundbite that I gave to your colleague about 2 minutes ago, it's our money and our guns today or our daughters and our sons tomorrow. Now, I was working at the heart of the Ukrainian government between 2016 and 2018, and the Ukrainians, especially Pavlo Klimkin, the man I worked for as foreign minister, were trying to tell the world that Putin's desire to put the Russian Empire back together would not stop with Ukraine. I think what I've seen in the last few months is a cacophony of voices bigger than mine and far more experienced and, let's be honest, credible than mine, finally waking up to the fact that Putin is a threat not just to Ukraine, but to all of us. He will either, if we allow him win in Ukraine, he will either then go for the Baltics and Moldova and possibly Poland. I'd remind listeners that only a few weeks ago he put Katja Kallas, who is the Prime Minister of Estonia, on a wanted list at the same time as he put senior politicians and officials in the other two Baltic states and Poland on a wanted list. I think we're finally waking up. So to get back to the question... And
he murders his political opponents, let's not forget.
Absolutely. But to get back to the question, and I know that I know we are in straitened times, but we are dealing with a foe who knows no limits, who will either wants to invade or disrupt our societies. If we don't get our defence right, we won't have a quality of life to defend. Putin has long been, along with allies in North Korea and Iran and China, who are standing back at the moment, they are dedicated to the taking asunder of our rules-based order, which has been in place since the end of 1945. It's not perfect, but it's given us the greatest period of peace and prosperity that the world has ever known. Yes, we can do better, and we're capable in democracies of doing better. But I think people are finally starting to realise that not just Ukraine, in the West, we face an existential threat. So I'm afraid there is no choice. We must. And Britain, has been at the forefront. And I speak to Ukrainians almost every day, and to this day, Britain is regarded as Ukraine's greatest friend for what we have given them and for the influence we have brought to bear on others. But we all need to step up. Emmanuel Macron, incidentally, seems to be really getting it.
He is. I mean, I suppose the heart of the question that I'm asking listeners is, can we afford to step up? I do agree with you, Cormac, that we do face potentially an existential threat given Putin's clear aim of a greater Russia. The question is, can we afford it? While you're on the line, well, first of all, thank you for listening and thank you for calling in, Cormac. But given your connections to Ukraine, how is Zelensky coping at the moment, given the ammunition shortage? We see him routinely flying around the world, essentially on a mission to persuade foreign governments to keep spending billions to support Ukraine. I imagine that's actually quite demoralising. Is that the right word at times?
Draining. Let me answer two questions. Draining. Very quick answer to your first one. We cannot afford not to. But onto Zelensky and the shortage of ammunition. We saw significant gains in 2022. Last year, 2023, the frontline hardly moved at all. The Ukrainians in 2022 had taken back over half the land that Russia had captured from February. What we are seeing is a grave shortage of ammunition, artillery ammunition in particular. And what we have seen is across the front line, which, excuse me if I get the figure wrong, around 1,500 kilometres, the Ukrainians have had to switch from offence to defence to just try and hold the line. It obviously takes, I'm not a military man, but I listen carefully to the military men and speak to them. It takes far more to attack than it does to defend. We saw about a month ago that they had to retreat from the strategically important city of Avdiivka. The situation for Ukraine is dire at the moment. You ask about the effect on Zelensky. Look, I don't know. I'm in touch with a number of senior officials who have become good friends of mine from the time that I was out there. And I know that they are absolutely weary. They are worn out. They are emotionally shattered. Even those who are maybe in senior diplomatic positions, who are fighting just as much for their cause as the men and women on the front line. But they cannot. They're tired. We talk about Ukraine fatigue in the West. We've no right to feel Ukraine fatigue because these people cannot afford to give up. I'll just one more quote, as a very good friend of mine, a senior diplomat, told me back after the war started. He said, if Russia stops fighting, there will be no war. If Ukraine stops fighting, there will be no Ukraine. And Putin and his henchmen have made it absolutely clear that they do not believe Ukraine has the right to exist, but nor will they stop at Ukraine.
Cormac Smith, thank you very much indeed for being a listener, and thank you very much indeed for picking up the phone to contribute to the conversation.